Hi, I'm Tiffany, and this is Daniel with Stunning Stays. And today we're going to talk about issues with short-term rentals. It's interesting, in the back of our short-term rentals, we have cameras. And a lot of people do, and we advertise that. But we've had a situation, and we had one of our guests go in. They came in on Saturday, and they got all in their spot. And then we noticed the backyard. A camera moved. We're focused on the brick wall, so we couldn't see anything. We're like, that's kind of weird. And then a couple days later, second camera moved. In this instance, you address it. You talk to the residents, because if someone's moving a camera, they're trying to hide something. Now, it doesn't mean people are looking at them all the time, but it's important that, there's cameras up for certain reasons. Safety, there's for damage. There's a lot of reasons why cameras are up, and owners don't sit there and just look at them. But there are reasons why we need to be able to view them at certain times. And that is why when someone moves the camera, it's important that you address it with the guest.
And just to clarify, these are not on the inside. It's against policy for all the standard OTAs to have cameras on the inside of property. These are outside. This is a Ring brand. But basically, we have one that's a doorbell camera on the front door, and then we have some that are on the back patio. And again, they're mainly for safety and for purposes of security and enforcing the policies as far as making sure there's nothing, there's no parties allowed, as well as the right amount of guests who are checked in, that sort of thing. That's it.
So it's important that when something like this happens, if you have a short-term rental, that you address it with the guest. And what's great, Airbnb did change their policy that if you address something with a guest and they retaliate with a bad review, then you can get that review removed. So when a guest does something, it's supposed to be a win-win. When a guest moves in, we do everything we can to make sure that experience is 100% top-notch. But there are times that you're going to have, as an owner of a short-term rental or with your property management company, that they're going to have situations where a guest does something against policy. What's important is that the property management company or the owner addresses it right then and there. Because if it goes past a certain amount of time, then you're not going to get anything back. Meaning, if you let something go, and let's say you don't have any cameras, but then there's 100 people at the property because you can't see anything, then all of a sudden, the first question people are going to ask is, well, why didn't you see it on the cameras? Well, because I didn't want to address it, which I hear from a lot of people. Are you not willing to address it to be afraid of a bad review? Well, Airbnb's fixed that. If it's on your own website, then you need to address it with the guest as best as possible, as professional as possible, but to make sure that your policies stay in place. That's why there are policies.
We had a guest that was there, and actually they had their baseball team stay there, and they were playing.
This is another story.
There's another story.
Okay.
And the baseball team was on our sport court, which is a basketball court and a pickleball court, and they had their baseballs, okay? And they were playing fetch and they were playing baseball on the back. And they literally were bouncing it on the court and hitting the stucco on the side of the house. And our cameras caught that on the side yard.
Sitting there watching it.
Yeah, and there was an adult out there, no big deal. They can just let it bang into the house. It was no big deal. And so after they checked out, we found on the stucco damage from the baseballs hitting the house. And fortunately, it was through Airbnb on that specific one. And so they did pay for the cost to get it fixed. And if they had chosen not to, then Airbnb cover would have, protected it and offered the property damage. They would have paid for the property damages. So it's very important to in those instances that, it's for the property protection. You can see things if they're, if your guests are not performing well, or if they're having a party, or if they're abusing the property, you can stop it at that point.
Well, it's important to realize that there's good and bad in every industry. You're going to have good guests, you're going to have bad guests. We've had both. But in all, the short-term rentals and mid-term rentals are a great way to make money. So even in these stories that we tell you, or the experiences we've had, the homes that we have still make a lot of money for our owners. A lot. Another story that we had was we had a basketball team come and stay in our property. And we have a no smoking policy, no nothing. And we do ask, we don't have a laundry list, but we do ask that they don't leave a bunch of dishes in the sink. Just load the dishwasher. Well, so it was morning checkout time. We walk into the home, TV's on, lights on. I'm like, you're like, are people still here? Should I walk out? You know? Every TV was on, every light was on, and then we get to the kitchen. And it is, every counter is full, and every fridge is like busting at the seams, and you're going, what? And what's interesting about this, if you go on any social media platform, they're like, this is a horrible experience, meaning I don't want to be owner of a short-term rental. I don't want to do all this. But this is why you have cleaning fees. Yes, some cleaning fees are going to be more, some are going to be less. Meaning you're going to win some or you're going to lose some. On this one, we lost some, okay? But what was interesting, and then our cleaners went in, and I would get pictures of beer bottles behind the bed, gum stuck to the bedpost.
They had Oreos in the sheets and junk food and Cheez-Its in their beds. It was disgusting.
It was disgusting.
And they also, we just had a higher expectation of that specific guest because, hey, they're basketball players and they're sports, you know, and there was a coach that was there. We had the wrong expectations with that group. We were expecting it to be, hey, disciplined and, you know, show some respect and show some honor. There's none of that.
That was actually one of our worst experiences. We walked in and I walked into the downstairs bathroom. I walk in and I go, oh, Daniel, this one's been smoked in. And I said, I guarantee what happened is she would get into the shower and smoke, thinking that the steam and everything would cover it up. And I went into this house to see it because the cleaners were like, this is a mess. And what was interesting is people would shun away from a business just because of an experience like this. When this house alone has made this investor over $80,000 net in 10 months. So just because you have one bad experience doesn't mean it's a bad investment. And I wouldn't even call this a bad experience. There wasn't a bunch of damage. It was just a mess. And it was disgusting because, like you said, I played basketball, so I knew what my coach expected of me. And, she would have thrown me out and I would have been beaten. But it was more of you respect the things around you. And so going into this, when we walked in and the shock on our face, because our cleaner was like, you need to look at it. All in all, is another experience. And you're going to have different experiences with short-term rentals, mid-term rentals. You're going to have the good and the bad and the ugly with any investment.
Most of our guests are they're very respectful. They're classy guests. Most of them are very good guests. We've only had a few exceptions to that, but almost all of them are wonderful guests. Oh, but yeah. we would welcome back with open arms anytime. Oh,
I remember the one that stayed at the house we call Seahorse, and oh my goodness, she stayed there for like 3 months. I think, if I can remember, she was a snowbird, and she came in, and she was on her day, she was telling us when she was leaving, very respectful. And we walk in, and I'm not kidding, I didn't think anybody had stayed there. The counters were wiped down. It had been vacuumed, swept. I mean, she
even did the laundry.
And I'm like, we didn't even ask her to do this. This is what she did, because then right when she left, she said, hey, can I book next year? Like, yeah, no problem. Go ahead, book. So a lot of our guests are exponentially high class, amazing people that we love to have in our homes. And when we have the basketball team be a guest again, maybe with a higher deposit. Daniel says no, probably not, because it was a headache. But at the end of all, it wasn't damage. It was just so. At end all, when you're choosing a property management company, or if you're doing it yourself, you need to realize there's going to be some of these guests that don't leave it great or do leave it great. And you need to have a team on your side that knows what to do when that happens. Whether there's damage, whether it's a mess, whether the cleaning's higher, what needs to happen to make sure that you're taken care of as an investor, and at the end of the day, you're making money.